up, my angels? I got a special guest on my show. Introduce yourself.
Wayne Griffith, otherwise known as the Elusive Tech, all things electronic, all things computers, all that jazz.
Check out his social medias at
Wayne.Griffith2 at yahoo.com. Facebook.com, sorry.
Okay. So I told y'all that I was going to do my story time, and the time has come, as y'all can tell by that title. Also, before I start, go down below, hit that like button. Go down the other side, hit that subscribe button. I hope I'm touching on the right side, whichever side it's on. Hit that subscription button so y'all won't be missing anything, so y'all can be notified. Hit that notification bell. Feel free to go down below in my comments, say what y'all want to say, ask any questions we might be doing. We're going to be doing some Q&As. At least I'm going to be doing some Q&As at some point. So don't be afraid to go down and ask whatever questions and make your comments, whatever. I'm going to be checking them out and we'll be responding. So anyway, to the story time. As y'all know, this is my birth story, what happened, what the plan initially was versus what actually happened, and how everything unfolded afterwards. So basically, I've been infertile for over 5 years, up until the beginning of last year. And I did some herbal stuff, healed my womb, because I was able to get pregnant, but I kept losing the babies. I have other kids before that 5-year period, but I kept losing the babies, and I wanted another baby. And in the right type of circumstance, I wanted another baby. And this man I've been his ride or die, basically, since 2010. Even though in 2010 we were just friends, but past that. So I did what I did and healed my womb, and then we tested it out, and clearly it worked, because not too long after that we had a disagreement, went our separate ways, and after the disagreement, in the process of me trying to move to New York, I found out I was pregnant by having complications and everything. I took a pregnancy test, and it was a very clear positive. It came back immediately, bright pink, 2 lines, bright pink, no waiting, none of that. As soon as I put my pee on the stick, a couple of seconds, both lines was just like, bam, there you go, here I am. So I went back to where we used to stay at. I got kicked out, not by him, but by our old landlord. We were supposed to have both gotten kicked out, but I knew he was still going to be there, because I knew it was really about me. So that was just some hate type situation. We ain't going to get into that. But I knew he was there, so I went over there to let him know. Because no matter what is going on between me and the guy, if I grew up without both my parents, so I just never wanted my kids to be without both parents, because I know the pain that creates in the child from experience, from my own experience. And that's something that I never wanted my kids to go through. So I was like, I'm going to let him know. And I showed him the pregnancy test. I don't remember really saying anything. I sent somebody in to get him, and he came outside, and I just pulled the test up and held it up so he could see it. And he was like, what that mean? I was like, it's a pregnancy test. It means I'm pregnant. And so I didn't really get a response, and I didn't know how to feel about that, because I didn't know what he was thinking or if he cared. But he cared, but I didn't know at the time whether he cared or not, because I didn't get a response. And so that's what it was. So time went on. I went through the pregnancy. It was hard, tough. We still weren't together. because I had already made up in my mind that once I broke up with him, then I was over. I think we did try to be together for a little bit. I thought I told you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did try to be together for the sake. I was like, I wanted to try for the sake of the baby, but it wasn't something that I really wanted to do for me, so it didn't work. Because you can't force yourself to be in a relationship for somebody else. That just doesn't work. So because I had already resolved in my head that I didn't want to go through it anymore, because relationships are tough, relationships are hard, and I didn't want to go through that struggle or that toughness with him anymore at the time. So when I started seeing that struggle again, I was like, nah, I'm done. So I ended up going back to New York in the pregnancy, and I ended up coming back near the end of the pregnancy. And my plan, if y'all saw my other YouTube channel, was to have a natural home birth. Midwives cost a lot of money. Hospital births cost a lot of money. Not that it's like money is going to trump things, but I also am a naturalist. I believe in all things as natural as possible. I believe in our culture, and when I say our culture, I'm not talking about our Americanized or Europeanized culture. I'm talking about our ancestral culture. Can you go get her? I'm talking about our ancestral culture. And so in our ancestral cultures, we didn't give birth in hospitals with men all up in our private space and everything. There's just so many violations going on in that. So my intentions was to have a natural home birth. Would I have liked to have a midwife? That would have been nice. But because of the fact that I didn't want to put all those funds into it, and I didn't have somebody that's in my family that's close to me that, you know, lives that type of lifestyle and would help me with that, I learned myself up on what you call it, free births, which is basically you giving birth and bringing your own baby into this world yourself. Normally it would happen with the father there, but since me and he weren't on the same page at the time and he wasn't around, I was gonna be doing it alone. So I was doing all types of research on what I needed to do, what it entailed. I've had kids before. She's my fourth baby. She's no holds barred, so I'm gonna go ahead and say my 10th pregnancy. So I've lost a lot of babies, but I've given birth to 3 others before her. So it's not that it's nothing I'm unfamiliar with when it comes to a birth, because I've never had a C-section. I've had all my babies naturally, minus the drugs with the pain. But I was also looking into people who had water births, which was my plan for all of my kids. It just never happened that way due to complications. But I just started researching the medical facts behind everything. And so that's what I was working towards doing. When it came around to the end, as usual, I started having contractions early along. A lot of times people didn't believe me, as usual, but that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this thing myself, because I didn't want to go through trying to convince people of what's going on with my body and what my body's telling me I need when it comes to my baby and my pregnancy, and making sure that we have what we need and are being well taken care of. So I started educating myself on the medical side of what I needed to do and what I needed to prepare. It came down to it where I was like, just really, he came back around. He was back around in the picture, and I was letting him know that I was having contractions and everything. And like I said, this is his first baby, so he's looking at me like not showing a whole lot of intense pain and not really reacting so much like he was used to seeing other women reacting to contractions. So he felt like it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like I was in a whole lot of pain. What? You knew I was having contractions. I'm not saying you didn't think I was having contractions, but it's just you verbalized to me that you thought that if it was really about to be time, then I would have been in a lot of pain. I would have been crying. Yeah. And because I've been through this before and I know how to get, first of all, I deal with pain every day. Half of my spine is metal. That's another story time. I'm not going to get into the details of that. That's a whole nother video. But half of my spine is metal. That happened when I was a teenager. So I've been dealing with, by the way, I didn't tell y'all in my birthday video, I just turned 33. So all these years from then on to now, I've been dealing with pain almost on a daily basis, except for during the time period that I was vegan. And it took me becoming vegan and a couple of years into that for me to not deal with pain every day. So me dealing with pain every day and being so used to pain, I'm not going to cry every time something hurts. Like, especially when I know what it is and I know that it's the time, the end of it is coming, and I know that I'm about to get something as beautiful as a beautiful baby out of it, which is what I wanted. So there was nothing to cry for. And so it was just, I knew to breathe through it. I knew how to deal with that pain. And so with no fault being of his, he just didn't realize that. So I went on to having the contractions and trying to help it along, doing everything that I knew to do to help it along and, you know, bring it on to it, make it do its course. So it wasn't working. She was like always kicking up and moving up. She was in the right position, but she was going in the wrong direction. So she was like, instead of pushing down, she was pushing up. And so I ended up having swelling from like halfway on my stomach down, where I had edema. And it was pretty bad. And I knew that wasn't normal for me, but at the same time, everybody kept telling me, oh, swelling is normal. Like the nurses that came around my uncle's house, and everybody was just like, oh, it's normal to have swelling. I know I've never had it before, but at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, every pregnancy is different. Maybe it's just different because it's a different pregnancy. So I was like, okay, we're going to push through this. We're going to get through this. So I'm getting all this swelling, but I went to the hospital. What day of the week was that I went to the hospital?
I believe it might have been on a Tuesday or something.
Maybe on a Tuesday. And that was the first time we went to the hospital, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I went to the hospital on maybe a Tuesday. And we got there, and the lady goes and puts all the stuff on me. Oh, you're not having contractions, right? And then what she told me, I'm not having contractions. I'm not in labor. So I'm like, okay. I know that I'm having contractions. I know I see contractions on the monitor. But she's telling me, oh, you're not having contractions. You're not in labor. You can go home. So she sends me home. Whatever. I don't want to have my baby here anyway. So we pack up and go home. We went out to eat. And then we went to the house. And by the time we got to the house, when I tell you my legs swelled up and I looked like Miss Piggy in a Well had a baby, my legs swelled up to the point I couldn't move my legs. Like I could not bend my knees to save my life. I couldn't move my feet. Like my feet and my ankles were so swollen that there was no room for movement. Behind my knees was so swollen there was no room for movement. So I'm sitting on the sofa I was asking him to stay with me, but I stayed at my uncle's house, and my family don't really support our relationship. I ain't gonna say that they don't really like you. They just don't support our relationship because of things from the past.
Just like
We're gonna leave it at that. But it's not their business. It doesn't matter whether they like him or not, because he's not in a relationship with them. So the point of the matter was, I told him that I needed him to stay with me, because I could not, with that happening, I could not do it by myself. I couldn't function by myself with me being that swollen. So I was asking him to ask my uncle if he could stay there with me to help me out, because my uncle's paralyzed, so he can't help me. He can't do anything for me except for provide a place to stay. My aunt staying there, she can't help me because she's elderly and she can't help me. So I needed him to stay, and it was just not working out that way, and he left. And I was sitting on the sofa, and I was like, my uncle was like, you can't sleep on the sofa, da da da, and I'm like, I can't move. And he was in his bed already. His nurse had already come and put him in the bed, so he couldn't see that my legs were swollen or how swollen my legs was. Now my aunt saw it, but the way my uncle is, she didn't want to really get into it and try to explain it to him and argue with him about it. So she just was like looking at me and feeling bad for me, but didn't want to say nothing. So I'm sitting there like, I can't move. Like, I don't want to sleep on the sofa. I want to go to my room, but I can't move. And he's like, well, you can't sleep on the sofa, da da da. And I'm like, I can't move. So I ended up having to call the ambulance to come and pick me up. I really didn't want to, because I don't like ambulances. But I had to call the ambulance to come pick me up. And they came and got me. And they was like, can you get up and get to the stretcher? And I'm like, no. My legs are like balloons. I can't move. That's why I called you guys. And so they had to pick me up and help me to the stretcher. They got me to the hospital, and not even a whole 5 minutes after I got there, my water just. I went to the bathroom first, because I felt like I had to pee. And I went in the bathroom, and I couldn't pee. It would like trickle, and that was it. And then I couldn't go anymore. And I don't think that I was peeing. I think that was my water. But it was just trickling. And I couldn't go anymore. And then I went and got in the bed, and I felt like I had to pee again. And all of a sudden, it just started coming out without me being able to control it. And I told the nurse, I said, I don't know if I'm peeing on myself or if my water just broke. So they didn't believe me again, because they had just sent me home talking about I wasn't in labor. So she was like, well, let me check it. And she took the strip and checked it, and it came back. It was my fluid. So she was like, oh, your water just broke. It's time to go. I was like, okay. So I called her daddy back, and I guess he went home and had already passed out, fell asleep by then, because we had been in the hospital for a while the day before. Earlier that day. So he was knocked out, because it was like 10 o'clock at night. And so I called my mom, and my mom came up there, and I asked her. She left, but I asked her, because it wasn't time for the baby to come. The baby won't come in immediately. So she ended up leaving, and I asked her that on her way there. No, when I called her, when she came, I asked her, could she stop by his house and go and pick him up and tell him that I'm in labor. So she went and picked him up and brought him to the hospital. It took him forever, because I remember sitting there. I do remember sitting there, and it was like for a while, and I was so scared. I kept telling the doctors that it would be so terrible, that he was so excited, and for him to miss it. Like, I thought he was going to miss it. Like, I didn't think it was going to take as long as it took for me to have her, so I really thought he was going to miss it, and I thought he wasn't going to show up, because he was in his feelings about the way things happened at home. That's what I thought. I thought you weren't going to show up. Like, I was hoping, really praying. I was praying that you was going to show up. And I kept telling the doctors, like, I really hope he show up. Like, I'm going to be real sad and upset if he don't show up and he missed this. And so when he finally came to the door, I was, like, so, like, relieved and happy. And I was like, we about to have our baby. She's about to be here. So he stuck by my side, y'all. Like, he did that. He stuck by my side. And he recorded a lot of it. He turned the camera off when things started going another direction. But, okay, come on. this is coming to the parts where I don't remember. She fine. It's coming to the parts where I don't remember everything. So I need you to like put in where I don't remember. Okay, so you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You got there. What happened after you got there? What do you remember?
Wow, there's a lot of things that went on, but you were in labor. Well, almost in labor.
Well, no, I was in labor. Your water broke. You're in labor.
Yeah, all right, and
your
then
water broke. That's it.
You were back and forth between something. So
what you mean between what? What are you talking about?
Labor first. The contractions were,
Oh,
a
so
few minutes apart.
immediately. Okay, right away when my water broke, we was trying to get the contractions to kick up in intensity. We was trying to go natural because I didn't want no drugs. That's why I was trying to have a home birth. So I was letting the doctors know that I wanted it to be as natural as possible because my intentions wasn't even to have my baby in the hospital, but because I was swollen, I couldn't. So, and because my water broke at the hospital, they weren't going to let me go to have my baby at home anyway. So I was letting them know that because I just found out that hospital has come up to times and they now do things more natural than most hospitals do. Like they had the birthing balls and this peanut ball that I didn't know existed and some other stuff. They don't have the birthing pool to do a water birth, but they do let you get in the shower and stuff like that and walk around in the hallway. Like you don't have to be hooked on machines and stuck in the bed all day. So I was like, good, I want to do everything as natural as possible. I don't want an epidural. I don't want any drugs. I don't want anything that's going to interfere with my baby, any unnatural things that's going to be with my baby. I don't want my baby getting all these extra shots and stuff that's not necessary. Like if something is highly necessary, like definitely necessary, then okay. If something's wrong with her, do what you need to do. But if it's not completely necessary, if it's just, just in case or just like stuff like that, I'm not with it. So we was having that whole conversation and making sure we was on the same page so we could work together as a team, and everything could go smoothly. So what we was trying to do was to try to find a way to make the labor progress on its own. So they let me, but somehow we got the swelling to go down, and they allowed me to walk around the hallway. But the swelling was still there. It just wasn't as bad as it was. So I still looked like the elephant and Miss Piggy had a baby. But I was able to walk with help. So he was helping me walk in circles around the hall. And I would have contractions and stuff, and it was a little bit intense, but I remember I've had babies before, so I know when it's there, what that feels like, and that wasn't there. So we were just joking and being silly and goofy and walking around the halls while I was looking fat. And so it just wasn't progressing fast enough, and the time was flying because I did not realize that much time passed. But I did realize it was taking a while. I just didn't realize it was taking that long. I guess because we was joking and being silly, I just lost time, and I was just walking. So I was probably walking for hours, right? Was I?
No.
I was walking for a while.
At least, 15, 20 minutes.
I walked and I stopped and I walked and I stopped and I walked and I stopped. So I was walking for a while.
Yeah.
So I would stop because I had to take breaks, of course, because I was having contractions and it takes a toll on you. But I was trying to do it on my own and it wasn't working. So after a while, I was like, look, they was like suggesting Pitocin. I had that before with previous pregnancy. So I didn't want to do it, but at the same time, it was taking a long time. And I was like, I'm ready to get this part started so that she can be here and I can meet my baby and it can be over with. And so I was like, if that's what I need, let's go ahead and do it. Just try to do it gradually or whatever. And they was like, all right. No, they was saying we're gonna do it gradually. Me at this point, I was like, no, I want this to go ahead and kick up. For real. That was me. I'm ready for it to be over with. And so they was like starting to drip real slow and moving it up, and I'm like sitting there looking at the machines, like making them teach me what the stuff means so I can know what it means and whether it's coinciding with my contractions, if it's doing anything or not. And they just wanted to go slow with the drip, and I'm like, look, this is taking too long. Let's please, can you kick it up a notch now? Can you kick it up some more? And it just wasn't working, and I was over it. I started getting over it, like, long before she got here. I was over it. And so it started kicking in. It, like, this is how I am. I can deal with it very intense pain for a short period. I can deal with a lot of pain for a short period. But when it's going on and on, I don't know when it's going to stop. It can be a little nagging, not even really pain. I can't deal with it. I can't. So when it started going into hours, I was like, no, I need y'all to kick this up so she can come out. Like I need her to come out. So I was like, I was over the pain, the discomfort, the irritation, and I was ready for it to be over with. So I was like, started getting in the shower. I think I was in pain by the time I got in the shower, but I knew it wasn't, she wasn't coming yet, but I was ready for her to come and be out of it. And so I was getting in the shower and like trying to, get myself comfortable and everything. The nurse had to help me get in the shower, and then they walked out, and I heard my sister and my dad and my son there, which I had told, my son said he wanted to be there, but my family don't believe in the kids being around because they have a different viewpoint than me. And I feel like it's a good thing for kids to understand and experience that they experience and appreciate what their mother went through for them to bring life to them, to bring them to life. And kids that don't appreciate that, they'll keep on, oh, I want to have another brother, I want to have another sister, and my kids did that. Every time you turn around, they telling me they want to have another one. My son told me one time I want to have 100 babies, and I said, by who? And he said, by you. So not in that